Today is Wednesday, August 10th, and tonight's topic is Hunter S. Thompson. Hunter S. Thompson has been one of my favorite authors over the past couple of years. I didn't start reading him until winter of 2007, after I'd seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but I decided I knew I had to read him. I had to see what was left out of the movie, and his voice was weird and fantastic. I'm not like some of the other 20-somethings who like Thompson because they think he, praises drugs. I don't fetishize drug use. In his later years, Thompson did not fetishize his drug use. He realized it hindered him after a while. He was completely dependent on drugs to get through the day. The few times he had to go to the hospital and go through detox were horrible, and he kind of barely survived them. Thompson is a gorgeous writer. This quote: "Music has always been a matter of energy to me, a question of fuel. Sentimental people call it inspiration. What they really mean is fuel. I have always needed fuel. I am a serious consumer. On some nights, I still believe that a car with a gas needle on empty can run about 50 more miles if you have the right music very loud on the radio." I'm not quite sure where that quote's from, but it's phenomenal. "Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, 'Wow, what a ride!'" I mean, for something that is, pure beauty, you have to, not just look at his quotes, his snippets of, gorgeous passages. You have to actually read a statement of his in one of his books. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas has two of my favorite quotes: the wave speech and the other one, I forgot what it's called. My other favorite quote is the Edge speech from Hell's Angels. Phenomenal. I will link to both quotes in the description, but I will read some of the wave speech. "Strange memories on this nervous night in Las Vegas. 5 years later, 6, it seems like a lifetime, or at least a main era. The kind of peak that never comes again. San Francisco in the middle 60s was a very special time and place to be a part of. Maybe it meant something, maybe not, in the long run, but no explanation. No mix of music or words or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there and alive in the corner of time and the world, whatever it meant. History is hard to know because of all the hired bullshit, but even without being sure of history, it seems entirely reasonable to think that every now and then the energy of a whole generation comes to a head in a long, fine flash, for reasons that nobody understands at the time, but and which never explain in retrospect what actually happened. My central memory of that time seems to hang on one of the 1 or 5 or maybe 40 nights, or very early mornings, when I left the Fillmore half crazy, and instead of going home, aimed the big 650 Lightning across the Bay Bridge at 100 miles an hour, wearing LL Bean shorts and a Butte sheepherder's jacket, booming through the Treasure Island Tunnel at the lights of Oakland and Berkeley and Richmond, not quite sure which turn-off to take when I got to the other, always stalling on the tollgate, too twisted to find neutral while I fumbled for change, but being absolutely certain that no matter which way I went, I would come to a place where people were just as high and as wild as I was. No doubt about that. There is madness in any direction at any hour, if not across the bay, then up the Golden Gate or down the 101 to Los Altos or La Honda. You could strike sparks anywhere. There's a fantastic universal sense that whatever we were doing was right, that we were winning. And that, I think, was the handle. That sense of inevitable victory over the forces of old and evil. Not in any mean or military sense. We didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. There was no point in fighting, on our side or theirs. We had all the momentum. We were riding up the crest of a high and beautiful wave. So now, less than 5 years later, you can go up on a steep hill in Las Vegas and look west. With the right kind of eyes, you might almost see the high water mark, that place where the wave finally broke and rolled back. That, despite my horrible reading of it, is one of the most beautiful passages. I could have just read those last two paragraphs, but the whole build-up is what works for me. It's what does it for me with Thompson. His thoughts of nostalgia are just so phenomenally written, phenomenally and amazingly well written, that I can't help but be in awe. I enjoy reading his writing because it's not just about the ridiculous things he did. It's about how he shows the world how his mind works. Even reading things where he's mean and nasty to people, it's hilarious, ridiculous, and amazing. It's easy to see why so many people took up trying to imitate him, but Thompson can attempt to be imitated, but it'll never be the same. There's just a certain word choice and rhythm that goes with his writing that makes it so fantastically beautiful and perfect. Looking at his writing, you can see how he wants things to be spoken. There were capitalizations in the middle of sentences, like in the second to last paragraph. And that, I think, was the handle. That sense of inevitable victory over the forces of old and evil. Old and evil are at the end of that sentence, and he capitalizes them because of their importance to him and what he's trying to say. I think that if you have tried to watch Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, you should go back and give Thompson's writings a try. Start off with the Rum Diary, where it's less gonzo, less fantastical and ridiculous, and read something where it's more grounded, but there's an early version of his voice peeking out around the corners as he describes things. Give that a try. Start off with that. Read Hell's Angels. Read Fear and Loathing. Those first two will be a great starting point to who he is and how he speaks. I don't know. I just got finished reading Gonzo, and I loved it. You remember I showed this in my What's on Your Person video. This book took me a few months to read, but that's because I put it down. I got about halfway through. When I got to a descent in his life, when things weren't as fun to talk about, I stopped reading because I wanted to read about, I didn't just want to read about the party, but reading about the crash, that's not fun. That was today's vlog, an assignment for you to read Thompson. If you already enjoyed Thompson, right on. Tell me what you like about him in the description. I hope you understand that the allure to his writing is not the drugs. It's not just the drugs. He has a quote where he says, "I don't condone drugs and alcohol, but they seem to have worked for me." And he does it. In his later years, if you read Gonzo, you'll hear quotes from his friends and family, where he was talking about how he knew and realized that he was an addict, and how it ruined his life. So read Thompson not for the whole drug thing. Read it for the beauty in his words and his critical analysis of the world around him. I just really enjoy his voice, and I always hope that when I write, especially if I write something that's kind of autobiographical fiction, that I don't try to imitate him too much, because I would fail. I'd fail worse. I'd fail just as badly as everybody else who's ever tried to write like him. Adios.